Is it safe to travel to the United States right now? I have to be honest. Of all the travel safety discussions I've hosted over the years, this is, without question, one of the most difficult advisories I've ever had to write. And I don't say that lightly. As a Canadian, and as someone who has spent decades crisscrossing the border, exploring every corner from Maine to California, I feel a connection to the United States that is more than professional. It's personal. So many of us in Canada grew up seeing America not just as a neighbor, but as a sort of extended family, a place that felt familiar and safe, even when the headlines were troubling. Like many Canadians, I have many American friends, and even family whom I care for deeply. Over the years, I've walked through Times Square at midnight, driven empty stretches of highway in Arizona, sat in diners in the Midwest with locals eager to share stories. I've been treated with kindness, generosity, and a spirit of openness that is as American as anything you'll ever see on a postcard. But in 2025, it would be disingenuous, and frankly irresponsible, to pretend that everything is as it used to be. This is a moment in history when traveling to the United States demands more than just an appetite for adventure. It requires an understanding of a country grappling with deep, unresolved questions about itself. It requires respect for the people who call it home, and awareness that even they often don't agree on what safety means or who it includes. And it requires that, as travelers, we go in with our eyes open. Today, I'm going to share a frank look at what you can expect if you travel to the United States this year. I'll talk about the heightened scrutiny you may face at the border. I'll walk you through the social and political landscape you'll be stepping into. And I'll talk candidly about how your experience will be shaped by your identity. Whether you are a woman, a person of color, someone of a particular faith, or part of the LGBTQ+ community. When you first arrive in the U.S., whether you're coming by land, air, or sea, you'll notice that the process of entry has become more intense. That's not an exaggeration. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has steadily expanded its authority, particularly when it comes to electronic devices. If you haven't crossed recently, you may be surprised to learn that officers can demand access to your phone, laptop, and social media accounts without needing probable cause. They can ask you to unlock your devices. They can scroll through your photos, your text messages, your emails. They can and do copy data for further analysis. Even as a Canadian citizen, traveling for tourism or business, you are subject to these checks. And while many people pass through without incident, the randomness of it can be unsettling. You can be a retiree headed to Florida, a student visiting New York, or a family taking the kids to Disneyland. If the officer decides to dig deeper, you have very limited recourse. Refusing to comply can result in being denied entry on the spot. The increased scrutiny doesn't end with electronics. Travelers are often questioned in detail about their plans, their finances, their professional lives. This questioning isn't always hostile. Sometimes it's friendly, almost casual. Other times it can feel accusatory, as if you need to justify why you've chosen to come at all. As a Canadian, I'm used to a border that feels, at least in spirit, neighborly. But even that perception has changed. Many of us now cross with a quiet anxiety, aware that the warmth we expect can be replaced without warning by suspicion. It's important to understand that this environment is not just about national security. It's also about a broader, polarized culture of vigilance that has settled over the country in ways that are hard to fully appreciate until you're standing there, passport in hand. Once you clear immigration, you step into a country that in many respects feels like the same United States you've always known. The highways are wide, the stores are open late, the national parks and beaches are as awe-inspiring as ever. But the social temperature is different. The United States today is more politically divided than at any point I can remember. Conversations that were once considered private, about race, religion, sexual orientation, immigration, are now happening everywhere, from cable news to local coffee shops. And they're happening in a tone that is often strident, impatient, and deeply personal. You can feel this tension in the small moments. The way a stranger sizes you up in a restaurant, the look someone gives you if your accent reveals you're not American, the nervous glances when topics turn to politics. If you are white, able-bodied, and traveling in areas that lean politically moderate or liberal, You may not feel any different than you did a decade ago. You'll likely be welcomed, waved through, treated with the same warm hospitality Americans have always been famous for. But if you are Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, or Indigenous, you may sense that you are being watched a little more closely. For Muslim travelers, the experience can be particularly fraught. Wearing a hijab or other religious attire can draw attention, even in cosmopolitan cities. You may be subject to more questions at the border and more scrutiny in public spaces. And while most encounters will be uneventful, there is no denying that Islamophobia has not disappeared. It's something visitors should prepare for emotionally and practically. For Jewish travelers, there is also a reality worth acknowledging. Anti-Semitic incidents, including vandalism and verbal harassment, have been rising. Most Jewish visitors won't encounter this personally, but it's a reminder that religious identity can shape how you move through America in ways that feel uncomfortable. LGBTQ+ travelers have seen progress in legal protections over the past decade, but this progress is uneven. In many cities, pride flags wave proudly, and same-sex couples walk hand in hand without concern. But there are parts of the country, especially in more conservative regions, where visibility can attract hostility. Travelers should consider this carefully when choosing destinations and accommodations. Yet it's important to say this too. America is not just its tensions. It's also a place of astonishing resilience and community. The same country that struggles with division has citizens who volunteer, who stand up for each other, who organize in defense of their neighbors. You will meet people who will go out of their way to make you feel safe and welcome. You'll find that kindness still lives side by side with suspicion. The social reality coexists with a uniquely American relationship to firearms. It's impossible to talk about safety here without acknowledging that mass shootings are a fact of life. The U.S. remains the only developed nation where gun violence happens with such frequency. While the statistical likelihood of being directly affected is still low, the psychological impact is profound. Canadians and Europeans often remark that they've never thought so much about exits and emergency plans until they spent time in the U.S. Crowded venues, from music festivals to shopping malls, now have visible security, bag checks, and increasingly armed guards. This heightened awareness is simply part of the American landscape, something you adjust to in the way locals have. Travel advisories from other countries reflect this reality. Global Affairs Canada advises Canadians to stay vigilant in public places, to monitor local news for emerging threats, and to be prepared for heightened security at events, as well as increased scrutiny at the border. The UK Foreign Office points out that incidents of violence, including gun violence, can occur anywhere, and advises travelers to familiarize themselves with local emergency procedures. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade offers similar guidance, emphasizing that while millions of visits to the US are trouble-free, crime and civil unrest can happen with little warning. Some of you may be wondering whether all of this means you simply shouldn't go. It's entirely understandable if the current realities feel like they cross a threshold of comfort that didn't exist before. I'm not here to say you must avoid traveling to the United States, but it's no longer the automatic yes it once was. The country is still an extraordinary place to explore. Its natural beauty alone is worth the journey. The cultural richness, the spirit of innovation, the sheer energy of everyday life, they remain as captivating as ever. But it's important to recognize that the risk profile has changed dramatically, and it now requires more thought and preparation than it did in the past. This is a country where preparation matters more than it used to, where cultural awareness isn't just a courtesy, it's a safety measure, where you need to think about who you are, how you present yourself, and how you'll respond if you encounter hostility. So is it safe to travel to the United States? The most honest answer is that it depends. It depends on where you go. It depends on your identity. It depends on your willingness to adapt to a climate that is more unpredictable than it was a generation ago. If you go prepared, if you understand that the country is in a period of deep reflection and sometimes deep conflict, you will be better equipped to navigate it. You will be able to find the beauty, the kindness, the promise that still lives in so many American communities. I'm Steven with the Travel Safety Network. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone considering a trip to the United States. Please feel free to comment if you've been traveling recently in the United States and what you experienced. I'm sure that all of my viewers would love to hear about it. Until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and remember, safety is your travel superpower.